someone on Facebook recorded himself committing suicide, and that thing went for about 3 days before Facebook shut it down. So cyber criminals pry on your weaknesses. So there's another image that I also like, the 7 ills of social media. So you have Facebook pride, you have like Uber maybe sloth, or something like that, you know. So everything has come with, social media has come with its own ills. Yes, it has its own advantages, but we also have ills when we look at it. So even SMS, nowadays you get, even WhatsApp, you get, and that's why we were telling my mom, stop forwarding these things, you don't know. So the minute you click on that link, you're done, if it's a malicious link. And malicious links increased, right? Malware is downloaded onto your application or onto your phone, you know? So we have to be very, very, very careful. So they've come up with all types of different mechanisms to try to get information from you. I won't go through all these are things that we can read. So it's very important. So I'll talk about the hygiene best practices. Since we are all practitioners here, antivirus, key. Make sure you have antiviruses. Backups are very crucial. In the event of ransomware, the only thing, because nowadays ransomware has evolved to a certain extent that you cannot get the decryption key. Once they encrypt that data, that's it, you have to pay. There's no decryption key. So in the event you don't have a decryption key, what do? The only thing that will save you is your backups. I won't even go into that because this is a whole business continuity topic, but I'll talk about this. Your backups need to match your need. Okay? So if you know that we need this, we cannot survive without this information for 24 hours, your backups need to be every 24 hours. And that is what is called your recovery point objective. You can recover up to 24 hours of your data because that's what you need. Okay? And then your recovery time, that's can we lose and still be able to operate? So backups, crucial. Password management, this one I'll talk about. Data encryption. Encryption used to be a foreign concept. Nowadays, it's an everyday thing. WhatsApp tells you your messages are encrypted end to end. Right? So why do you people decide to use, when you're doing a sensitive, let me ask this question. If you're making a sensitive call, will you use the regular whatever line, or you'll use your WhatsApp? When you're making a sensitive call, you use WhatsApp, right? Because WhatsApp, I've told you, your calls are end-to-end encrypted. Your messages are end-to-end encrypted. Why? That's important. It means no one can sit in the middle to actually get access to your information. It's end-to-end encrypted. But then, they don't tell us what happens in the sink. I talked about sinks. Where the data is sitting or going, what happens there? And then, food for thought. Okay? So all these things, physical security, multi-factor authentication, zero trust. Zero trust has become a thing. So in my class, I am in class with three gentlemen who are working for the US Army, US Air Force, US, all that stuff. And they're very interested in zero trust and implementing it for the military and for the government. And what is zero trust? It means you do not trust anything. As in, there's no level, you only trust upon proof or something like that, which is a very difficult concept to actually implement, but it's one of the things that's a very big topic in cybersecurity right now. So I'll talk specifically about passwords because we take this very lightly. Passwords are very important. Why do you think you are told to have a password that has many characters and that, what's the term? The alphanumeric passwords. Can someone tell me, I'm finishing in the next 1 minute. Can someone tell me why that's important? Do we know? Yes. It will take a hacker a very long time to break. Now let me give you the mathematics, you're right. Let me give you the math. So, your password, let me talk about your M-Pesa PIN. I like that topic. your M-Pesa PIN and your ATM card PIN, which is a 4-digit PIN, which means we are looking at base 10, 0 to 9, right? which means we are looking at base 10. So if you do 4 as a factor of 10, how many possible combinations do you have? 10,000, right? So because password cracking works on combinations and permutations. That's how it works. So you have 10,000 possible combinations. Now let me tell you, the Core i5, which was there in 2015, now we have the Core i9. So the Core i5 could do 1 trillion, it had a computation power of 1 trillion per second. Now, your 10,000 your 10,000 possible combinations passwords, how long will it take to crack? It's right there, 0.001 seconds. Now we are in Core i9. The computation power is way higher. This is the mathematics behind it. That's why. So when people tell you, have strong passwords, have blah, 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 you know, that is very important. So I've come to the end. I don't think we have time for questions. I've eaten into a lot of time. As I said, I warned you. I talk a lot. I'm a teacher, naturally, so yeah. Okay, Haggai, I don't know if we have, is there time for questions? No. One question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Collins from HPS. My question is about destruction of data. At some point in my learning, I heard that it's not possible to destroy data the moment they get into these digital platforms. Like, for example, you said that Google, you can ask them to pull down the data. Is it really true that they can pull it, or it's just kept somewhere for convenience?
So, according to the data protection regulation, I'll answer you from the regulation side and the technical side. So according to the data protection regulation, you can, once a data subject asks you to forget that data, there are two things you can do. You can put this data in a system, an archival system, that is not going to be used ever again. And there's a reason. There's something I forgot to mention. Some data is very important to keep, even if you've stopped processing, like financial data and all that stuff. Why? Because certain regulations require you to keep that data for a certain number of years. Like in Kenya, we know financial data, it's 7 years. Employee data is 7 years, and all that stuff. So when they say that, that's an option that you can use. Another option is anonymization, where I mentioned that you can actually process this data in such a way that it is not now linked directly to the data subject. Now, when it comes to technical, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of cyber criminals who have done something on a system and it cannot be traced? Completely, cannot be traced. Forensic auditors come in, they cannot retrieve that data. Yes, so there is a technique called, I forget the name, there's a technique that you can use to completely, it's not even overwriting data, it's completely destroying that data. You know, on the disk, whatever it is, you can actually completely destroy it. I'll give you the name once I remember, but yeah, it's gone out of my mind. So it is possible. And that's how a lot of criminals get away with, like, for example, financial fraud and all that stuff. Yeah. I was given only one question. Huh? I was given room for only one question. So because I've eaten into a lot of time.
Merci beaucoup. Bon, je voulais poser ma question par rapport à ce qu'elle vient d'exposer. Juste à la fin, là, elle a parlé des moyens efficaces pour protéger les données.
Yeah, he want to ask a...
Don't worry, I can multitask. I'm a female.
Yeah, He want to ask a question based on the last presentation.
Bon, quand vous avez parlé, parmi les moyens là, nous avons l'antivirus.
So when you mentioned about an antivirus,
Mais et pourtant qu'il y a des antivirus, et même là sont des pirates.
and sometimes you find antivirus which are not trustful.
Comment y faire face maintenant? Comment y faire face? Comment on peut faire face pendant que l'antivirus lui-même, là, c'est le pirate, il peut pirater les données.
And so he's wondering how to deal with that, even if, so you have an antivirus which is not even ready to
J'ai
work.
fini.
So how can you move forward?
Merci.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a very easy problem to tackle. So if you go to ratings if you just Google the best antivirus solutions and all that stuff, you'll actually get them. So I know I personally use Kaspersky. It has worked very well for me over the years. And then, because how the secret about antivirus is they use signatures to be able to detect malware or whatever type of, malicious content it is. So you need to find an antivirus solution that regularly updates their signatures, because the threat landscape continues to evolve over the years. So if you find an antivirus solution that is continuously evolving their signatures, then it will become possible for you to actually choose a correct antivirus. Another thing is now antivirus manufacturing companies have moved to machine learning, because the criminals have become smarter. Now they are creating viruses that actually morph, like COVID. It kept shifting in form. So once a certain signature identifies it, it changes in form. It changes in form. So cybersecurity experts and antivirus solution providers have actually started creating antivirus tools that actually adapt. When the virus morphs, the tool also morphs to be able to. So it's a process of learning. They're not there yet. As I mentioned, it's machine learning. So you are training your tools to be able to identify certain signatures, even if they're changing, to be able to detect and see that, okay, this is not a normal type of code. This is not normal content. Yeah. So Google is your friend. I will always say that. Google is your friend. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sister April. Can we clap for her again? That topic can not be exhausted within this session, but we've been discussing with April over a long time how we can come up with some security templates that we can apply across the church operations. So today was just a beginning to set us rolling with the initial information. Right? So we're going to work very closely with her. Then we see what is it that we can work on here and devolve to your units. Over lunch hour, you can check the table where she's seated and ask more questions if she accepts to have that time. But I believe she'll be here with us over lunch hour. Sorry that today has been a bit tight, being the last day for presentations. Bear with us. But that's the reason why we played football yesterday, that you can be fit today, right? So today we want to, before I invite my brother Richardson to come and present. Richard, not Richardson, Richard Stephenson. I took the SON and brought this side. I want to call Nicole to give a token of appreciation to Sister April. April can come, make your way to the front. Someone with a good camera to take that, Justice. Take a photo of that, come out, as that exchange takes place. So just come slowly as the camera is picked. Yeah, as we wait for the camera to arrive, can we rise and just stretch a bit, please? Let's do this. Then you reverse. All right. pick a pen that has dropped. You don't have a back problem. And breathe in and out. Yes, so this time we want to present this token of appreciation to my sister April. Thank you so much for creating time out of your very busy schedule to be with us. May God bless you, and we look forward to working with you as a church. And we are glad that most of the presenters in this forum have been members of our church. We want now to take one more presentation this morning before we break for lunch. A very key presentation. You know, when Richard was getting challenges coming, I said the devil is trying to fight something, because I know he has a lot of passion for our region to grow in IT. And so the devil was trying to cut this, but my heart somehow was at peace that you'll come. Yes, so I want to invite him. Please, let's adjust our seats. Sit upright. Your laptops will only be open if you're taking notes. Otherwise, keep them closed so that we can take what Richard is going to present. Please, come. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. As you can perhaps tell, mealtime is very important to me. So I will not be going long into lunch, I assure you. All right, I'd like to share a little bit for the next few minutes about our enterprise technology strategy at the General Conference. Over the last 6 or 8 months, we've been going through a process to kind of understand where we're at and where we would like to go. And part of that process was, of course, to identify the challenges that are before us. In my estimation, one of the most significant challenges that we as a church face as a denomination, and this is not something that is unique to any field, but it is really something that is universal, is that we have an increasingly difficult time to attract and retain competent IT professionals within the church. This is a global challenge that we must wrestle with as a denomination. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that the church, let me rephrase it, the Lord is going to use technology in a way that is unheard of as we get closer to His return. The Lord is going to harness the IT professionals, those that work within the technology space, to really embrace the identity of being digital ministers, of being the ones who are answering the call. And so, as we look at challenges, we have to just acknowledge right up front that we have an issue with attracting and retaining IT staff within our church. And so I want to start my remarks by just saying thank you for your dedication to this church. We understand that it is not salary that keeps us here. We understand it is not the benefits that keep us here. We understand that it is mission that keeps us here. And every one of us are missionaries that have been called by the Lord to work where you're at, where I'm at. So thank you for your work for this church. Thank you for what you're doing. It was mentioned that oftentimes people tend to forget about IT or technology until stuff breaks. And we really have a thankless job. Sometimes we're seen as keeping the lights on, if you will, keeping the house running. And really, we're so much more than that as we are taking the gospel online, making connections, and really sustaining the church. I said that there were two challenges. One was staffing. The other challenge that I see, and this is another universal challenge, is that we as a church, we largely operate in silos. We're really good at kingdom building, as long as the kingdom that we're building is our own kingdom. I hope you understand what I mean by that. We have created these boundaries, if you will. And one of the things that I feel strongly about, if you look at Christ's last prayer, this is recorded in John chapter 17. If you look at Christ's final prayer that he prayed in Gethsemane, just hours before the events of his life would come to a conclusion, just hours before his great sacrifice, you recall what Christ's final prayer was? He prayed for unity among his followers. And I believe that an answer to that prayer of unity must be that we come together. We come together as conferences, as unions, as missions, as divisions. The church comes together and we stop trying to solve our problems individually, but that we do it together as one church, as one body of Christ. And so I hope that as we move forward, I believe that the Lord is calling us to work across boundaries, to build bridges with one another. We are stronger when we are together, and we're far more effective when we can share resources instead of each of us being left to reinvent the wheel on our own. So let's jump through this strategy. This has been prepared and presented to GC administration, and this is the direction that we're heading. Our mission, selecting and safeguarding technology resources that complement the mission and message of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And our vision, technology that is aligned with our mission and advances the message. These are the mission statements and the vision statements for technology at the General Conference. One thing that we feel strongly about, technology in the church must never be about technology. The moment, and this is a trap that I think we all fall into sometimes. Technology is really governed by release cycles. And so we can get caught up in what's the latest and the greatest. And we can get caught up in releases, either hardware or software. And we can kind of get consumed with that cycle. When technology works the best within the church, it is when mission is paramount. When mission governs the use of technology, certainly not the other way around. I think sometimes we run into problems because we get in the mindset of managing IT instead of understanding that really what we're called to do is to oversee and sustain mission through technology. I think that's a fundamental difference. So our strategy has 4 goals, 11 objectives, and 36 initiatives, and we're going to run through them quickly. If there's questions, I'd be happy to take those. Goal number 1, strategically focus technology on mission. This is a refocus, if you will. Goal 2, we want to model governance. Goal 3, we want to establish and share policies. And then goal 4, we want to adapt a strategy of shared services, removing silos and working across denominational lines, if you will. So, strategically focusing technology on mission. We want to adapt a data-driven strategy for mission. We want the data to inform us where we go and how we do that, all in the context of mission. So, there are 5 plans that we have to accomplish this objective. Establish a committee to regularly evaluate emerging technologies and share the knowledge with the broader church. That means sharing it with our divisions. This committee is being formed right now. Develop metrics and analytics to better evaluate the continuing value of systems to the mission of the church. One of the problems we have at the GC, we're really good at building new systems, and we're really terrible at retiring old systems. And so we have this increasingly aging infrastructure because we're not retiring systems. We're adding new ones into the mix, but we're not retiring when they are no longer effective. And we really don't have a framework to be able to effectively determine when a system or platform is no longer effective. Number 3, develop a plan to connect disparate data silos to more clearly establish data-informed ministry. Number 4, perform an analysis of current data architectures to encourage standardization. And finally, number 5, establish data use guidelines and more clearly establish data ownership, providing a mechanism for secure, approved, and appropriate data usage. For most of the data that the GC manages, we're not the owner. Influence the decisions we make and ultimately the conversations we have back with the data owners. We need to be responsible in this area. Objective 1, 2, strategically manage technology integration and standardization to meet the needs of GC operations. So here we're talking about standardization and integration. Really efficiency, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but efficiency comes when we can standardize, when we can increasingly standardize systems and platforms, we can realize efficiency. So we have 7 specific plans to accomplish this objective. I'll run through them briefly. Implement a standardized identity management and unified access solution. We don't have that currently at the GC. We do not have a common identity management system in place. We have about 13 different identity management systems, and they're tied to specific platforms. For example, GC session registration. That's a big system for us. It's got its own identity management system. That's a mistake. We need to be integrating our systems, not just for better manageability, but so that it's a better experience when people come and use these systems. Identify technical core competency. This is a realization that we cannot be all things to all people from a technology perspective. And so identify what are our core competencies at the GC. Strategically outsource and offshore technical expertise in areas that fall outside identified core competencies. So this means establishing partnerships with those that can assist us that fall outside of where we want to specialize in. Realign and centralize human and technology resources. Smart source technical staffing across the GC. It does not make sense to employ a lot of technicians in the GC region. It's just not sustainable for the church. The cost of living is horrendously expensive in the Washington, D.C. area. So we have to be able to take advantage, and Sun Plus is really the model that I want to follow. We have to take advantage of the expertise and the competence that we have in our church, in our divisions, without requiring relocation, but working on behalf of the GC, but working where you're at, working on behalf of the World Church, but not requiring you to relocate. Number 6, identify, catalog, and regularly audit GC systems. Number 7, identify and achieve economies of scale through standardization and automation. We're doing a lot with automation right now as well. Objective 1.3, identify a unified organizational technology guidance that reflects our unique understanding of end-time events. I want to embrace who we are as a people and let that understanding influence the decisions we make about how we use technology and what technologies we use based on our understanding of end-time events. Let's practice what we preach from a technology perspective. So 2 plans here: evaluate the sustainability of technology decisions. Let me give you one quick example. This is a hypothetical. If I can afford it today, when tithe is strong, will I still be able to afford that solution tomorrow when tithe is experiencing a downturn? Is the solution that I'm choosing sustainable for the church? Or am I basing technology decisions on what I can afford today and not looking at what might happen tomorrow when resources become fewer? We understand, almost intuitively, we understand that the resources that our church has is going to diminish as we get closer to Christ's return. I'm talking about the financial resources that are available to us. Let me give you another very quick example. Within the United States, they're discussing removing the tax-exempt status of the Seventh-day Adventist Church because of what we believe, because of our biblical beliefs. Removing the tax-exempt status within the United States, and these challenges exist in other parts of the world as well. We are operating in an increasingly antagonistic environment, an increasingly, what's the word that I'm looking for? Difficult environment as a church when it comes to government regulation, because our belief systems do not fall in line with what society today is pushing. Does this make sense? And so we need to understand that we will have increasingly fewer resources as we move forward. That is going to necessitate us working together, taking advantage of the resources that exist within the church. It's going to become a necessity for us to do this. And then finally, number 2, establish guidance on when to build versus when to buy software. That could be a whole discussion in and of itself. So modeling governance, governance is such a big challenge for us as a denomination. We want to establish data governance within the GC. We are building a department of data governance that will be separate and distinct from the IT department. This is a radical shift for us. I very much appreciated what my brother David shared earlier in the morning, how data governance is really independent from IT operations. From a philosophical perspective in terms of responsible IT, we need to disassociate the two. What that might mean is that we create committees that provide that governance for us if we're not able to actually populate data governance professionals who can look at this. So forming these committees to ensure that we have this structure in place. Speaking of committees, I wanted to share with you briefly, this is the technology committee structure that we have at the General Conference as of January 1. So this is a new technology governance structure. You can see at the top there is a technology strategy and governance committee that has our 3 executive officers on that committee, Elder Wilson, Elder Kohler, and Elder Douglas. And then it is populated by stakeholders. And then underneath this technology and strategy governance committee, we have our general everyday operational committee. So we have the software oversight committee, the IT services committee, the data privacy committee, the data center steering committee, information security oversight committee. These are not committees that we're trying to push upon the world church, but this is what works for us. What we would encourage each of our divisions to do is to identify where your needs are when it comes to governance, and then populate and build your committee structure based on your local needs, what you have in, what you need in place. Sometimes administrators can look at IT as being somewhat unmanaged or unmanageable. And so by building this committee structure that invites our senior administrators in to these conversations is absolutely critical for buy-in into what we're doing. Moving on quickly, formalize governance requirements for data availability, integrity, and security. Create and maintain a GC, DR, and incident response ministry continuity plan. Evaluate the GC's risk appetite to establish a risk management model that meets compliance, and conduct ongoing and regular employee security and technology trainings and in-services. Goal 3, so we're more than halfway through the presentation in case you're wondering on progress. Establish and share policies. We want to establish policies based on industry standards in the areas of data retention, data classification, data security, among others. This is not so that the world church maintains uniformity of policy. That's not what this is. This is not where the GC says, this is not where the GC says, this is our technology policy, we expect you to abide by it. That's not what this is. It's not prescriptive. Rather, what these policies are is templates for you to be able to use as you need to. And we're going to have a online repository where you can come and look at all the policies. We have 36 or so right now, and we're building policies that you can use that have been vetted by OGC, the legal arm of the church, policies that you can customize for your environment, change however you wish, and then use them, actualize them. We want to create policies, again, not so that we're all doing the same things the same way, but so that we have a common framework in mind as a denomination. So, develop a master catalog of policies, which I've just described, map policies to the appropriate governance committees, and then create timelines for policy development and adoption. Our second objective in this goal, establish a repository of voted policies from which policy documents can be shared. We spoke about this. Establish protocols for inclusion of policy in this repository. Establish protocol for distribution of policies. How do we distribute them? Establish protocols for accommodating regularly scheduled updates of policies. And section 3.3, this is unpacking a bit more of what we've been talking about. Publish and maintain IT and cyber policy templates for your use at the conference, union, mission, division level. and create a disaster recovery and ministry continuity plan template. This is something that I'm really excited about. Creating a DR and BC template available for you to take, customize, and use. We've started that project, and we hope that it will be released by the time we have our Adventist Technology Summit, which is coming up in June of this year, the last week of June. So having a DR plan template, again, not us saying what your plan should be, but providing you the resources to be able to create your own plans quickly, and then, of course, actualize them. Finally, goal number 4, adopt a strategy of shared services. We want to become an extensible and scalable multi-tenant shared services provider. We're really building a coalition of the willing, if you will, to where we can partner together to find solutions that our church is facing. 2 plans to accomplish this objective. Architect, build, and regularly evaluate a secure and resilient private cloud hosting environment. That hosting environment went live in August of last year at the GC, and we're very excited about that. And we would love to be able to work with you if you have needs in that area. Submit all GC data centers to regular compliance and certification processes. Objective 4.2, facilitate collaboration, integration, and standardization by eliminating existing technology silos. This is going back what I opened our conversation with, identifying one of the real challenges that face us is this silo mentality within the church. So 3 plans to address this. Number 1, create and build a strong and vibrant community of Adventist technologists and Adventist leaders at our divisions, at our GC institutions, our unions, our conferences. We want to have an environment where we can come together and share what's working, what's not working. We understand that this environment exists in some of our divisions, and we want to support that. We're not looking to try to replace something that's already in place, but we want to provide an online meeting place, if you will, where we can share about what's happening, what's working, challenges we're facing, just for us as Adventist technologists to come together. Number 2, establish a communication medium for technology across church entities. We could talk about that more, but we'll rush on to number 3, resume yearly meetings with division and institution CIOs and technology leaders and influence. Our Adventist Technology Summit is the first of such. Smart source resources. We want to establish a strategy to attract and retain denominationally employed IT pros. We want this to be a GC program that can be used within the local field. How can we attract and retain IT pros within the church? Including mentoring programs, career growth options, continuing education assistance. How can we encourage our young people, and not just young, I don't mean to be exclusive in that statement, but how can we encourage those that may be interested in working for the church? How can we connect those dots to ensure that we have that? Number 2, identify when to insource, outsource, and offshore technical resources. We spoke of this already. Number 3, globally smart source technical staffing. This falls in line with the Sun Plus model. And that is the conclusion of our enterprise tech strategy. There's quite a bit more that we could talk about, but in the interest of time and, frankly, the interest of lunch, I would like to take any questions that there may be and otherwise turn the time back over to our brave and fearless leader, Haggai. Thank you.
was so loaded, brief but quite loaded. Let's clap again. I'm sure we have some questions for him. I saw a lot of things of interest, especially the kind of support they want to offer, the kind of how we can identify talents across and see how to mentor. Did you see that slide? Did you see it? Were you excited about it? I know this guy is here, the first one to ask questions. Any question from this side? And I like you for that, by the way. That means you're very attentive. All of us are attentive in our own capacity. Any questions? Kevin? Can give him the mic. Where is the roaming mic? Eve, where is the mic that you had? You can just stand and shout it out, Kevin. Oh, it's coming.
I just want to thank you, Elder Richard, for that presentation. It's eye-opening, and I want to concur that the church is moving in the right direction, given the strategies, the objectives and the goals that you have presented. And we are just waiting for the templates so that we can customize them to our particular regions. My question, since Agai called me even before I had a question, is that did I hear you say there's an Advent summit coming in June? Are we all invited or only a few? Thank you.
That's a great question. That information will be coming through our division IT department. So please keep your ears open for that. That will be coming.
Right. And be a good boy or girl if you want to be selected. But I think I'm seriously encouraged by that presentation, you know. Especially, we find ourselves operating in silos, where someone has developed a school management solution somewhere in the corner of a country, somebody else does not know about it, you know. And some solutions we have where there's only one individual running it. Right? So when this guy is not there, we are all dead. So we want to see how can we come as a family, you know, unity in purpose. And if we can achieve that, you know, that's why I really wanted you to come. I couldn't have said it any better than you said it. So thank you so much. Richard will come again in the afternoon for another slot. I see 2 questions. Let me take that. And yeah, him, then Washington. There is him, then Washington.
Our church always has very good policies, and even the ones that are coming up. One challenge that comes in is in implementation, where it depends on the individuals. In terms of retention of IT professionals in the church, what is being done to make sure in this that it doesn't depend on an individual, maybe the leadership of an institution, such that when this leader comes, the IT is taken seriously, and when this leader comes, IT people are not taken seriously. Could we have a way that the church can ensure that what could be happening at the division IT and the already existing policies are being adhered to across institutions and not depending on the mercy, especially of our leaders?
That is a very good question. And I don't have a good solution, just to be blunt with you. There needs to be, I believe, we need to have a culture change to address what you're talking about. One of the questions that was asked when we started this strategy process was senior administration asked us, well, we want you to build an IT strategy. And we can't build an IT strategy. As soon as we build an IT strategy, we've set it up to fail. We have set it up to fail. We have to build an Adventist strategy for technology that supersedes any individual leader coming or going that focuses on technology or maybe focuses on other areas to the exclusion of technology. This is a journey that we're on, and that journey requires a culture change, I believe. And that culture change is coming. It's already started. Mrs. White tells us, and I'm going to make this really short because lunch is still calling. Mrs. White tells us that at the very end, the church will have to learn some very hard lessons in a very short period of time. And I think how to effectively use technology is one of those lessons that we need to learn. And that's not to say that past administrators have done wrong, but as we get nearer to our Lord's return, we have to understand that the most effective and efficient use of spreading the gospel is going to use technology. Technology is going to be that vehicle. So it is not an IT strategy. This is not something that is coming from technologists, but this has got to be a strategy that is embraced by the church, by our local leaders where we're called to serve. That's not a good answer, and I recognize that, and I apologize, but it is a reality, and you hit the nail on the head in identifying that. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much, Richard. And I think it's a whole topic that needs to be discussed, as you've said, culture change, and even policy, because I realize that in some policies that I see in some of our institutions, an IT expert could be called computer operator in that policy. So you wonder how old is that policy? So I believe that's one thing that is in your plate that you'll be considering. But I think we've made strides in this regard. From the time I joined the church, some sectors did not see the relevance of IT people. Or I know some IT people who are hired, but after some years, they are cashiers. Or they see, the way Tembi was saying yesterday, that's very true, that they can type very fast, they're put to secretariat, There are two ways to deal with it. Even as the leader of the IT service in the church, Elder Richard, is working on the policies and templates and everything, also make your relevance vibrant. People must see the need why you're sitting there. I would give you an example of ACMS. ACMS, when it came, it was a secretariat thing. But when I look at it, I said the IT needs to be involved in it. So I took it and we ran with it. And that's why Ecd was one of the leading. Otherwise, I could have said that's a secretariat thing or that's a treasury thing. But see the gap and see what you can do. All right? So there are some IT individuals that, because the server is working, you don't see them in the office. Okay? They are not there. All right? So when a new leader comes and asks, so who are here? They say, we have an IT guy here, but we never see him. So what comes to their mind? Already they are stereotyped. So make sure that you are faithful to your duty. Thank you. Washington, you had a question? Washington? Yes.
Thanks a lot, Elder Richard, Elder and Pastor, for the input that we have had and the strides that you're making at the GC. I'm just so excited about the governance structure that I've seen you sharing with us, headed by the 3 officers. And I was just wondering, has this always been the case, or this is something that you are pushing forward? Have that governance structure and the supporting committees, have they always been there, or this is something that you're just pushing so that it's adopted at the GC for now? Maybe you can just listen to all of them and then you can answer once. Then Or you want to respond to that one first?
At your discretion.
I can just say the questions and then you see how to respond. Then I would ask, how do they report that governance structure? Do they report to the ADCOM or they report to the executive committee? And then the other case is, I have seen the policies and the templates that you are trying to develop. Do we have the divisions also involved with it so that they can give you the unique scenarios in the respective divisions so that when it comes down, it becomes easier to customize? And then my last one would be, have you integrated also the divisions, the division core IT people in your respective committees, those supporting committees in your governance structure? Because I'm told the divisions are actually branches of the division and probably they will feed in the unique scenarios in your committees. Thank you.
I think I counted 4 questions there. And I'm going to forget 3 of them. So you'll have to help me with this. So first one, where are we at in the process? So the technology strategy has been approved, it's been voted, and we are moving forward with that. So now we're in the implementation phase of that, and we're just getting started with that. The data governance department has not yet been voted, but that's something that we hope will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're just on the verge of that. The revised committee structure is going through the process now to be voted. So each piece is in a different position. The goal is by June of this year, we will have all of this fully voted and in place, and then we can begin the exciting work of implementing it, making it practical, making it effective. What was your second question? Give me a quick. Great question, yes. So each committee reports to a different, so the reporting structure is different. Let me give you one example. You saw the overarching technology, strategy, and governance committee. That reports to our executive committee and directly to what's called EOM. That's our executive officers. So that reports to them, and then any recommendations, any voted actions would then get funneled into ADCOM. Our other 5 technology committees all report into ADCOM. And they are voted committees of ADCOM. So the one umbrella overriding is unique in that it kind of interacts directly with our executive officers, and then the other committee structures are ADCOM committees. Your third question. That's a wonderful question. We have not gone down that path yet, but that is absolutely our intention, is to have division representative, and at the discretion of the division, others that they deem appropriate to be a part of these committees. We've not identified that yet in terms of specific individuals other than the division CIOs and IT directors. They would be part of that by default. But that is the direction we're going, and we hope to have that actualized by the time our Adventist Technology Summit takes place. Yes, that's exactly right. And we want that involvement. We need that involvement because that's how we're relevant. We are irrelevant. I need to be careful what I say. The path to irrelevance is when I focus only on my internal needs. The path to relevance is when I embrace the fact that we are a world church and we have varying needs, and we need to understand that and accept that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other comments or question? I think then we are good. Thank you so much, Richard, for your answers. And I think I can say the future is bright. In other words, God willing, by God's grace. The day you are voted, we see, well, the day you were voted into office, we saw a renewed hope in what you've been desiring. So when we formulate stuff up there, it's easy for us to adopt down here. And then we operate as one brand across the world. Sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to have a break for lunch. But please, let's do it for 1 hour only today. That by 2:05, we are back here. What's happening after lunch? Number one, there are 2 reports that we did not take yesterday because of time. So West Kenya, you get ready. And I think there's one more I need to check. Then we'll have a presentation by Thembi that did not take place. We'll have a presentation from SunPlus team. Then we'll have some small remarks about CFMS. And then we'll have a comment, some remarks from our leader, Richard. And then we should have the closing ceremony before we go for the games. Tomorrow we'll tell you what happens. Elder Jerome had promised that we'll be taken for a tour downtown, so we are finalizing some plans. And so we'll tell you tomorrow what time is the departure, what time are we coming back, and then, because I know the first people departing are departing on Thursday, tomorrow midnight. So we are here the whole day, basically. And most of us are leaving on Friday morning. So thank you so much. We're going to pray for the food. I want someone to come and pray for food in Lingala. This guy here. Who speaks Lingala? 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 Kuja uambie chakula kwa Lingala. Yeah. Lingala is the official language in DRC. It's so musical. We don't understand it, but it's very musical. Naambia chakula. Na pia break.
Chakula Mlingala.
Kwa Lingala. Kwa Lingala, yes.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tosambela. Kolo totondi yo, tokumisi yo nkolo po bateli biso. Mokolo ya lelo ozalaka na kati biso, biso bana biso, toyoki mateya nyonso. Tosengi molimo na yo ezala na kati na biso. Kolo kamba moko na moko na biso, zala nzambe na biso liboso. Sunga moko na moko, poke basizi oyo so esili na bolamu nyonso nzambe tokumisi yo. Zala nzambe na biso, biso bana na yo, tokumisi yo bongo na kombo na Yesu. Amen.
Okay.